Thanks for tuning in to the second episode of the JR Takes podcast with your hosts. I am Jonah Hoffman.
And I'm Ryan Rogers.
And I think today we are going to be discussing the upcoming NFL draft. Ryan, we did a little mock draft. Are you feeling pretty confident with your selections of the first round?
Yeah, and just so everyone understands, this is the only mock draft they're going to need, period, because they're actually both going to be right at the same time, even though they're different. So all those other mock drafts you're seeing on the internet, just disregard them. These are the only ones that matter.
Yeah, we're basically Mel Kiper the third and Mel Kiper the fourth.
Well, I consider myself more of a Todd McShay type, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
To be honest, I have not watched college football very much at all in the last couple of years. Because from the Seahawks perspective, I mean, we've had no first round picks. We always trade them anyways. There hasn't been a ton of motivation to keep up with the hot prospects out there. Really up until the Russell Wilson trade, but been doing some research ever since then and made what I think are decent predictions for this upcoming draft.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I watched the Husky games every now and then, and living with roommates that went to WSU, I was forced to endure the Cougs. No, all jokes aside. But yeah, I found this mock draft to be very exciting, even though I just did it all on my phone in my room by myself, just doing some research. It kind of was almost like doing a fantasy draft, but being in charge of 32 teams. So
yeah,
but it was a lot of fun. I was trying to be unbiased with my selections. I didn't want to give the number 9 pick to the Seahawks. Obviously, I didn't want the pick to be just an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah, like have Aiden Hutchinson fall to us or something
right.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. I see you've got a little bit of different picks than I do, which is great. I'm glad that we don't have the same 1 through 32 going down the list. But do you just want to dive into it, or do you want to...
Yeah, let's just get going. You want to start with your number 1?
Yeah, so for my number 1 overall pick, I kind of went with, the common consensus and took Aiden Hutchinson for the Jacksonville Jaguars, the edge rusher out of Michigan. I kind of think his resume speaks for itself. He was in the running for the Heisman Trophy as an edge rusher. So, I mean,
yeah,
that's...
You don't see a lot of that these days.
Yeah, I don't see how you can, really show a better performance than that. And so, yeah, the number 1 pick was a pretty easy selection for me. But
yeah, on my end, I actually just to be contrarian, I picked Trayvon Walker. I've been hearing some rumors that he might go number 1 overall just because he had an insane combine.
Mm-hmm.
He's a lot more raw than Aiden Hutchinson. Some might say he's a riskier pick, but his upside is just through the roof. So I think they're about the same size, 6'5", 275 in Trayvon Walker's case. Aiden Hutchinson is... do you have his size up?
I do not. I just know he's a big boy.
Yeah. But anyways, I just feel like Jacksonville is just trying to get, the player with the most upside that they can get at number 1. So I'm going Trayvon Walker. And to segue into the number 2 pick, I went with Aiden Hutchinson because at that point, I definitely think the Lions are just going to pick maybe if Walker doesn't go number 1, he goes number 2 to Detroit. You could also see Thibodeau there, and some people have mocked Malik Willis as high as number 2 to the Detroit Lions.
I have seen that. I can't remember who did that mock draft, but
I've seen several. Yeah,
I know Mel Kiper Jr. is like obsessed with Malik Willis.
Yeah.
So like I think in the beginning he had us taking him at number 9 a couple weeks ago, which I think that rumor, that sort of narrative has changed a little bit as time has progressed. I think it's seeming less likely that the Seahawks sign a quarterback, especially after signing Geno Smith, which, side note, I hated that move. I don't care if it's for $3.5 million. I mean, I didn't realize this until the other day, but Geno Smith got a DUI the night of the final game of the season.
Yeah.
And then he like threatened to fight multiple cops when they wanted to take his blood because he refused a breathalyzer. And he was like saying all this shit like, once I get these cuffs off, it'll be a problem for you and all this shit. So I was just like, wait, so why are we re-signing this idiot?
Yeah, and you know what's funny about that is he put out a tweet before those details came out that he was like, just wait till all the information comes out before you judge. And then more information came out and it looked way worse for him. So
Yeah.
good job, Geno. I mean, I get he has experience in the offense, but yeah, I don't know. Pete Carroll likes him. That's why we re-signed him. But anywho, who'd you take for number 2?
Number 2, I took the safety out of Notre Dame, Kyle Hamilton.
Okay.
I took him just because there's a lot of hype around his name. He's one of the top prospects in this draft. And
he's a big dude, too.
I know that the Detroit Lions had a lot of problems in their secondary last season. They had to move some guys around to certain positions because they were bottom tier in their secondary. And I just think lining him up, I forget who their safety is. I looked him up, though, and he's a pretty young player. I think they got him in 2019. But yeah, the 2 guys in the secondary, and then, I mean, I don't know. The Lions are such a wild card every season with their draft picks because they seem to get it wrong more often than not. But, you know, I hope they can do. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback because I feel like the relationship between Jared Goff and Dan Campbell, I felt like from what I saw last season, they both seemed to really care about one another and their progression with the franchise. So that's why I went with the safety as kind of just a safe pick.
Yeah, some people say Kyle Hamilton is the best player in this draft. I've heard that a number of places.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Lions kind of are a total wild card, and I feel like depending on what they do at 2 is really gonna dictate how the top 10 goes. Because if they do go quarterback there, you might see people just. I mean, you might even see the Giants pick a quarterback all of a sudden. I mean, who knows? But who'd you get at number 3?
Yeah, so at number 3 for the Houston Texans, this was kind of a easy pick for me. I went with the edge rusher out of Oregon, Kayvon Thibodeau, and when I was making this pick, I wasn't really sure what the Texans' needs were because they're such a bad team, and Bill O'Brien obviously just destroying their whole. Just everything, basically. From
thanks for sending DeAndre Hopkins to the Cardinals, buddy. That was just great. God.
But I just went with the edge rusher just because there's a lot of hype surrounding his name. Potentially, he could even go number 1.
Yeah, for a long time, he was the consensus number 1 in this draft. There's been all these rumors about him dropping because of his interviews and because he has like a cryptocurrency that he started. I don't know. To me, it's kind of just like, well, who cares if he's kind of weird and wants to do side things besides football? Like, what can he do on the field for you? That's just my take. For me, at number 3, I had Ikem Ekwonu. I probably butchered that. But he is the tackle out of North Carolina State. He's called the single most dominant run blocking tackle in the country. And I just feel like the Texans just want to take someone that's going to, be a cornerstone player. And that's what, top 5 tackle typically is for teams. He seems, from what I hear, he's a stand-up guy, so he'll probably get, invested in the Texans organization. And, moving on to number 4, I have Ahmad Sauce Gardner, a lot of people's favorite cornerback in the draft, going to the New York Jets. I just feel like with what's his name, coach there?
Let's just call him Xerxes. For now.
Yeah, Xerxes is a defensive-minded guy. He's gonna want an elite cornerback to headline that Jets defense that has been pretty toothless the last since Mark Sanchez was relevant. Ahmad Gardner has a chance to be the best cornerback the Jets have had since Darrelle Revis. So I think that'd be a good pick for him.
Yeah, so for number 4 for me, for the Jets, I actually took wide receiver Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. And I
Okay.
do think this is a little bit of a reach, but I feel like the Jets are the type of franchise to make those type of reach picks. Um, I don't know. I just the Jets front office seems to make a lot of mistakes, and although I think Garrett Wilson is going to be a great receiver, he I don't know. I There's definitely picks ahead of him that I think like Ahmad Gardner. I think that would be a smarter pick,
Mm-hmm.
but I could just the Jets seem to really want DK Metcalf. They seem to really want a number
Yeah.
1 receiver for Zach Wilson to throw to. I think Zach Wilson needs a number 1 receiver to throw to in order
Absolutely.
to excel in this league. And so that's kind of why I went with Garrett Wilson. He's a pretty safe pick for the wide receiver position. I personally am biased. I do really like Drake London. I think he's the best receiver in this class, but because he broke his ankle at the end of last year. I watched a lot of I didn't not a lot of USC games, but I got to see USC play more than I usually have in the past just because of the
Beat a Pac-12 team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we watched a lot more Pac-12 games this past season than I have in years past. So, yeah, that's kind of why I tried to go away from my bias there and just go with the safe pick in Garrett Wilson. And for moving on to the fifth overall pick for the Giants, I went offensive tackle Evan Neal out of Alabama. This was kind of tough for me because I really want the Seahawks to get Evan Neal, but in all likelihood, do I think they're gonna land him? No. I forget how big he is. What is he, like 350?
Evan Neal is 6'7", 350.
Yeah. So I mean, how could you not want a guy like that on your offensive line?
Yeah.
And
he moves quicker than you would expect for someone that huge. I think he ran like a 5 flat 40, which for 350 speed, that's hideous.
Well, I think last season I remember seeing a specific offensive lineman on Alabama, and I was just in utter amazement at what I was seeing. Like, how do you? He was just one of the biggest. He was one of the biggest players I've ever seen. Period.
Yeah.
And
That is a wall of a human being.
yeah, so I just don't see him falling to us. Unfortunately, he would probably be like at pick number 9, who I would want the most in this draft because I mean, I don't see any of the top 3 edge rushers going to us. But even though I would like an edge rusher for the Seahawks more than an offensive lineman because I think we need to build from the defense up, I see Evan Neal probably going to the Giants. And I also made that decision because look at the Giants and what they've done in the past few seasons. Ever since they drafted Saquon Barkley, they pretty much have given him no protection. He's been swallowed up behind the line of scrimmage. They really need a guy that can run block and pass block for that matter. I mean, I'm kind of a Daniel Jones hater a little bit because I think he's
Me too.
terrible. but they did just sign Tyrod Taylor, so who knows if they're gonna stick with Daniel Jones.
Well, that probably means Tyrod Taylor's gonna win the starting job and then get hurt for no reason, and then Daniel Jones is gonna become amazing because Tyrod Taylor is the unluckiest quarterback I've ever seen. So for me at number 5, I had Kayvon Thibodeau going to the Giants. I just don't see him falling any further than that. I've heard some crazy predictions out there that he might even fall like outside the top 15 because of what people have seen in the pre-draft process. And I don't know. I think people are throwing out a bunch of smoke and mirrors to try to, trick other teams into doing this or that. So I think that's an easy pick for the Giants if they're looking at number 5 and Kayvon Thibodeau is still there. And for number 6, this is another one where I just keep hearing and seeing rumors about this happening. Frankly, I don't really know why they want to do this, but I have Kenny Pickett going to the Carolina Panthers at number 6, first quarterback off the board. I think the Panthers got a whole lot more holes to fill than a quarterback. And you saw what happened with Sam Darnold last year. I mean, at one point, what was PJ Walker starting for them, and they dragged out the decaying body of Cam Newton to run for a couple more touchdowns. But man, I mean, I've never been the biggest Cam fan in the world, but it is just depressing to watch him play. Post 2020, like he doesn't have it anymore. But the Panthers get their guy of the future in Kenny Pickett. Tiny hands, double glove Kenny Pickett. Good player though. Did really well at college, was a Heisman finalist his last year there. So
Yeah, to be honest with you, spoiler alert for my picks for the first round, but I only have one quarterback going in the first round. So
wow.
But
I can see it.
I
for
think
sure.
I was being a little conservative there. I think teams will get a little quarterback fever. I don't know. You saw it last year with I mean,
Well, do you remember like the 2013 draft where like EJ Manuel got drafted in the first round, and the 2011 draft where like Jake Locker and God, what was that? Christian Ponder. There was a bunch of bad quarterbacks in that draft.
Was it the 2017 draft where you had all those guys like Josh Rosen and
That was 2018.
2018? Okay, yeah, because that was quarterback fever right there.
Yeah. I mean, what, they have like 4 go in the top 10 or something like that?
Yeah, because I think you had Baker number 1 overall,
yep.
and then you had Darnold at number 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can't remember. I know Josh Rosen went like 11 or 7 maybe. I can't remember.
Man, it's crazy how hard it is to remember, even though that was not that long ago.
I know.
NFL world moves so fast.
Yeah, no kidding. At number 6, I actually took Charles Cross, the offensive tackle out of Mississippi State.
That'd be a smart move there.
I really I almost had him dropping to the Seahawks, but then I kind of did a little bit more research, and he was apparently very heavy in the pass blocking game. And like I was looking up on Pro Football Focus, after allowing 44 pressures on 574 pass blocking snaps last season, he gave up only 16 pressures on 719 pass blocking snaps this year. So that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I don't see him falling to the Seahawks because we want to go back to the identity of a run heavy, run first team, and
well, I think it's our only chance next year if depending on who we have at quarterback.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I'm going Charles Cross, Carolina Panthers. I mean, I personally don't think Sam Darnold is terrible, but I don't know. Get him a little bit more time back there in the pocket. Maybe he could do something, but that's a pretty big if.
Yeah.
I don't know. Matt Rule probably is trying to save his job, so I could see him taking a guy like Kenny Pickett to try and save his job. But who knows?
Yeah, you could see a Malik Willis type there too, or even one of the other guys. It's really hard to predict because depending on who you talk to, that's a expert in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's like 4 different number 1 quarterbacks in this draft.
Yeah, and then so moving on to pick number 7 for the New York Giants, I took the edge rusher Trayvon Walker. I felt like this was a pretty safe pick. I was kind of surprised I had him falling this low. I guess I just kind of got sidetracked with all the other unique talents at different positions because edge rusher is for me, it was the most popular position for the top 10 picks.
It's one of the most coveted positions in the sport besides quarterback, I would say. Probably the second most. If you can make an argument for left tackle, potentially. But yeah, those are really the top 2. They're typically the top 2 highest paid these days, too.
Yeah. And the Giants, I mean, they're a mess right now. And so I just think starting, like you kind of said with the cornerstone players, I think them getting an offensive tackle and a defensive tackle, I think that will kind of be a good step 1 in the process of their rebuild.
Yeah, you certainly make a good argument for it. To segue off of that, actually also in the top 10 have an edge and a tackle going to the Giants. First with Thibodeau, as I was just saying, but at number 7, I have Charles Cross going to the Giants. I think that'd be a good move for them. Shore up the offensive line, get Danny Dimes some more time back there to still suck probably, but hey, who knows? Yeah, so for me, that's a pretty easy pick. You mentioned his pass blocking prowess. 16 pressures on 719 pass blocking snaps. That's, I mean, as a Seahawks fan, that doesn't even register in my brain because, for us, it's 160 pressures on 719 usually. And then at number 8, the Falcons. I thought about this one for a long time. I considered throwing Malik Willis in there, but considering, I really think the worst 2 teams in the NFL right now, just looking at their roster objectively, are the Texans and the Falcons. The Falcons, they're in a rough spot because they're still paying a ton of Matt Ryan's contract. I think it might have been a record-breaking dead cap hit when they traded him.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say the Colts are only paying like $10 million or less on Matt Ryan's contract this year, and the Falcons are paying like north of like 28-30 million.
Wow, they really got fleeced there.
Yeah, they're hitting the reset button, which sometimes you got to do. I just feel bad for that tight end they drafted. What's his name? Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Mariota can get him the ball, but I have the Falcons taking Derek Stingley Jr. I just think, they just want to get someone that's going to sell tickets and excite that organization. Pro Football Focus has Derek Stingley as the number 1 corner in the draft. I want to say back in 2019, before he had some injury issues, he was the consensus, like one of the highest graded prospects in the country, period, regardless of position. But yeah, he's certainly got insane level of talent, and I think he'd, immediately make their defense a whole lot better.
Yeah, no question there. I kind of went on the other side of the ball, as far as like you mentioned ticket sales and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I could totally see the Falcons doing that, but they drafted Kyle Pitts last season, and I was like, what? Why? You're a tight end at, I think, number 4 they took him at. That's not going to save your franchise. And I mean, I know he's a young tight end, but I was like thinking, man, I probably would have gotten a guy on the defensive side of the ball, or I don't know, just it just seemed like a flashy move to me. And so that's why I decided to go Drake London out of USC.
Oh, okay.
Wide receiver. I could totally see the Falcons trying to do like a Julio Jones, Roddy White part 2. Tony Gonzalez. Remember back in the day, early 2010s, late 2000s, they had a pretty damn good offense surrounding Matt Ryan, and I could see them doing that again, second go around. I forget, was it Russell Gage on their team? He just signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so I mean,
that's right.
And he wasn't even anything spectacular, but who are they going to have?
He played really well down the end of the stretch last year, but
yeah, but he's not like a big name guy like they've had in seasons past, and I just overall I think they're going to need to get another guy to catch the ball. Even though it is Marcus Mariota throwing, which, by the way, I mean,
I don't think he's terrible. I mean, Marcus Mariota has a lot of talent, and he's done good things in the league. He's just never really ascended past, mediocrity, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
But he can get the job done. Falcons, I just think they're going to have a rough go of it this year, no matter what they do, and their cap strapped on top of it. But I think that's a good fundamental player for them to just start, moving on with.
Yep, and then moving on to the highly anticipated pick number 9 for the Seattle Seahawks, I went with edge rusher Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State.
Okay.
And I've just been hearing a lot of good things about this player. He had a good combine, apparently. And he, I guess, originally played for Georgia, but didn't see a lot of playing time, so he transferred to Florida State and did a lot of great things there.
Georgia had like a historically great defense last year or two.
Well, yeah, I mean, they won the national championship.
Yeah.
So Jermaine Johnson, he's one of the best edge setters in the class with 23 run stops and 14 sacks in 2021. So that's something the Seahawks need is guy that can stop the run and a guy that can get to the quarterback. So
Yeah.
it was a pretty easy pick for me overall. I kind of tried to steer away from the Sauce Gardner pick, even though on my draft board he's still available. I would like to see them draft someone, that's going to be on the line of scrimmage on either side of the ball. I don't care which side. Just get someone that can, make a difference up front.
The Seahawks are potentially switching to more of a 3-4 defense with what's his name? Clint Hurt, the new defensive coordinator. So if they do pick someone like Jermaine Johnson with his body type, he's probably going to be playing outside linebacker quite a bit and just rushing the passer. But it's going to be interesting to see what kind of athletic profiles they're going to pick up on the defensive side on the line this year, because that's a big reason why the Seahawks released Carlos Dunlap, is he wanted to be traded from the Bengals because they were having him do 3-4 outside linebacker stuff, and he's in his 30s. He's not really able to cover running backs and tight ends super well. I mean, there was a few plays last year where I saw Carlos Dunlap trying to cover a wide receiver, and I was just like, get Ken Norton out of here. Anywho, so in my dream situation that I've outlined here, Evan Neal is available at number 9, and Seattle doesn't trade down, which I do think they'll probably end up doing here regardless of what happens. But in my world, they draft Evan Neal here, the 6'7", 350-pound monster out of Alabama. He slides immediately in as the day one starter on left tackle. And we have club control of him for the next 5 years on a relatively cheap contract. That sounds pretty dang good to me. I'd be happy.
I would rather have Evan Neal than Jermaine Johnson, but I just don't see it happening. That would be awesome if we could get that kind of physicality up front. But
the more quarterbacks that are reached for in the top 10 makes it more likely that we get someone like Neal or Thibodeau or one of those top tier blue chipper guys.
Yeah.
And then for the 10th overall pick, the Jets, using the pick that we traded to them in the Jamal Adams trade, I have them selecting Garrett Wilson, who you had going number 5 overall, or number 4 overall, correct?
Yeah, we actually have our Jets picks flipped.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. So, yeah, not a whole lot more to be said about Garrett Wilson. Really good athlete. He's a bigger guy, isn't he?
He's 6 foot 189, I believe.
Okay,
So good size. He can beef up once he gets into the league. I'm sure he will. I was looking at him. Apparently, he's got a very natural ability. He produced at a high level from the slot and from the outside. So
a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah. For my 10th pick, I went with Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati, the corner. Obviously, like I just mentioned, our Jets picks are flipped. Kind of funny there, little thing we did. The Jets have a lot of holes.
Yep.
Like they do almost every year. So I feel
the
like
10-year rebuild of the New York Jets.
I'm not so certain Ahmad Gardner will fall to pick number 10, but that's just the fun part about the draft is you have teams reaching and you have teams playing it safe. So sometimes good talented players just keep falling and falling. And that's kind of what I had going for Ahmad there. But then at pick number 11, I have for the the football team, the Commanders, whatever you want to call them. I actually have them taking Derek Stingley Jr.
Oh, okay.
The corner out of LSU there, just because, again, they're another team that they have so many issues. I didn't want that, or I didn't foresee them drafting a quarterback just because they just traded for Carson Wentz in the offseason, and or did they sign him? I can't remember.
They traded for him.
Yeah, because I thought they gave up a pick for him, right?
I think it was like a 4th. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah. But, I had them taking the corner just because pretty talented player left there at pick number 11. And they seem to have a lot of needs on the defensive side of the ball. Even though their defense was pretty good, the season before last. They kind of dropped off last year. And,
Yeah. Well, their line is really talented, but I mean, their secondary is. I can't name anyone on their secondary off the top of my head. So
yeah, I think Landon Collins is the only guy I can think of.
Is
And
he still
I don't
there?
even know if he's still on the
Yeah.
team anyway.
we
so.
clearly watch a lot of Washington D.C. football.
But what about you? Who do you have at 11?
So I have Tyler Linderbaum, center out of Iowa, going to the football team. I'll be totally straightforward. I don't know much about their needs, but I saw that they needed a center, and Tyler Linderbaum is. Some people have called him the best center prospect in the last couple of years. I saw a film highlight from I think it was Samuel Gold potentially. There's a few people on YouTube that I watch their analysis videos, but one of those guys called Tyler Linderbaum the best center they've ever evaluated. Really good athlete, really intelligent from what I hear. It's a little high to take someone like a center. Here's what Pro Football Focus had to say about him. He was already the highest graded center in the country in 2020, but he took his game to new heights in 2021. So I think we're looking at potentially an all-pro, perennial Pro Bowler type of player here, who I would love the Seahawks to have too, but you can't have them all.
Yeah.
And then number 12, I took Trent McDuffie out of Washington. I don't know too much about Trent McDuffie, and he's not small. He's 5'11", but I'm kind of more intrigued by the larger corners because we had Sherman for so many years, and that pick and career of Richard Sherman really kind of changed the landscape of how people evaluate corners. But Trent McDuffie, he only allowed 16 catches for the whole season last year, which is pretty impressive. And I just think the Vikings need some help at corner, and he could probably slide in and be a day one starter.
Yeah, that's actually funny you took the local kid because I also took Trent McDuffie at number 12.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the first same pick we've had.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I noticed doing my draft research that the Vikings needed help in their secondary, and Trent McDuffie was left. There was, he's the 8th highest prospect on the Pro Football Focus list of players. So, I don't know. It just kind of made sense to me.
Pretty easy pick there.
Yeah. And then at 13 for the Texans, I have them drafting offensive tackle Ikem Ekwonu.
Oh, I forgot he was still available on your.
Yeah, out of NC State.
Yeah.
And again, kind of like my edge pick, Thibodeau going to the Texans. I just think that the Texans need to build from the ground up, and you need to address positions on the line of scrimmage, I think, when you're building, when you have nothing. And, if they were to get a quarterback, I just think he's probably going to get hurt. And Davis Mills did not have a bad season last year.
Yeah, I was making fun of him, honestly, just because his name is funny to me. But when the Seahawks played them, it was annoying me how much he was completing passes on us, which, granted, everyone did last year.
Yeah.
But his stats weren't bad, and he got a lot better as the season went on. And actually, behind Mac Jones, he was statistically the second best rookie quarterback last year. So
I could see that.
Don't sleep on Davis Mills.
Well, yeah, and I was kind of surprised, honestly, by the performance of the rookie quarterbacks last year.
Yeah, it was a rough year for them.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence just got worked
but I think
that whole organization with Urban Meyer as their leader is just a joke in general. But
not only are they in Florida, but they're the Florida of the NFL as well.
Yeah. But who do you got going at 13?
So it's kind of funny. I feel like we sort of just have these players swapped as far as where they are going. Because at this point, I was looking at my big board, and I was like, oh, my God, Kyle Hamilton hasn't been drafted yet. So the Texans are going to take the best player available at this point, and that's an easy pick for them. He is very, very highly rated from no matter what site you go to, NFL.com, ESPN, Pro Football Focus. People call him just a slam dunk prospect. So he slides right in and makes the Texans slightly more watchable. And then for the next pick, I have Jordan Davis, the massive. How big is he? 360-pound defensive tackle that ran a 4.7 40-yard dash, 4.79, I believe. That, I mean, I don't honestly know anything else about him other than those two numbers, because those two numbers should not be used in association with the same human being.
Yeah.
That should not be physically possible. A car that weighs that much shouldn't be able to do that.
He's bigger than two of me.
Yeah, and he's probably faster than you. It doesn't make any sense. But he's so big, he has to be a nose tackle, more likely than not. So I have him going to the Ravens because they play a 3-4. And not actually too knowledgeable of the Ravens defense, but I think he would be a slam dunk for them at number 14. And it just makes too much sense.
The Ravens have also always kind of they've also kind of always built around their defense.
Yeah, they
prioritized that
for a long time.
Yeah. And I just remember back in the day, it always seemed like in the 2000s, it was the Steelers and the Ravens playing each other in the playoffs late rounds.
Two good defenses going at it.
Yeah. For me, for the Ravens, I have the edge rusher, George Karlaftis out of Purdue.
Okay.
Don't really know too much about him other than I saw on Pro Football Focus. Yes, that is the reference page that Ryan and I use a lot here.
Yep.
But he was the 10th overall prospect, and I mean, we're sitting at pick 14 here, still got him on the board. So I was like, well, I knew that they needed an edge rusher or a defensive frontman of some sort. So a little note they put here for Karlaftis. He played at least 49 snaps in all but one game this past season and finished with a 90.6 Pro Football Focus pass rushing grade. So seems like a pretty solid player all around.
Yeah, I remember reading somewhere that some people said he was the best power rusher. So kind of like the way Carlos Dunlap rushes the passer.
Yeah.
So.
And then at 15, the Philadelphia Eagles, I have them taking, for what seems like the 5th year in a row, a wide receiver in the first round, because they keep missing on all their shitty picks that they make.
And they could have had DK.
But instead they took who'd they take? Artega Hassan Whiteside or whatever that guy's name.
Yeah, the guy with like 3 catches.
Or is it Hassan Artega White? I don't know. What 3 names belong to him. I don't know the order of them.
And 3 catches.
Yeah. and then they took what was it? Jalen what is that guy's name? Out of that
Wasn't he from Alabama?
No, he was out of like a Christian school.
I can't remember.
Yeah, well, that should tell you that much right there.
I think the only Eagles game I watched last year
was
Jalen
Reagor.
That's who it was.
Yeah.
I actually picked up in fantasy, and it was awful. I might cut him in a dynasty league, and he's 22.
Yeah, but aside from all that, I have them taking Chris Olave from Ohio State. Just another kind of safe pick for them. I think the reason the Eagles have had so many struggles with picking a wide receiver is they keep trying to reach for positions at that position rather than just take the best guy available. And they took Devontae Smith last year, who honestly I thought it was a good pick. Devontae Smith is really small, but he won the Heisman, so you can't ignore that. And I think they played it safe taking him. Devontae Smith didn't put up crazy numbers last year, but he still put up some numbers. I mean, he was a decent guy to have on your fantasy team. So
yeah, and honestly, it's really more of the exception than the rule for great receivers to be great their rookie season. I mean, you look at Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Them coming into the league and, sort of like Odell Beckham back in 2014 and just ripping the league apart and being like top 5, top 10 wide receivers immediately come out of college, it doesn't happen all too often. Most of the time, I mean, you even look at Tyreek Hill, he put up okay numbers his first couple seasons, and then all of a sudden he was the best most feared deep threat in the NFL to this day. Um, so yeah, I could see that Eagles receiver doing a lot better.
Yeah. What about you? Who you got going at 15?
So I have Devin Lloyd, linebacker out of Utah,
Okay.
going there. He's another guy that I don't know too much about, but everything I read seems to say that he is one of the better players in this draft, period, and would go a lot higher if this draft were, I don't know, let's say 10, 15 years ago when linebackers were more highly valued. I feel like linebackers, safeties, and running backs have been hurt the most by modern NFL changes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Eagles need a linebacker. He's pretty much the consensus number one inside backer in the draft. So I actually am kind of worried the Seahawks are going to draft him at number 9. It's just,
I hope not.
Can't you see that happening though?
Yes. They're like obsessed with linebackers.
I know.
They always have been.
Please don't do it, John Schneider. I know you're listening. And then for number 16, here's where I had Drake London going. The Saints receivers last year kind of just evaporated into nothing. I know Michael Thomas was the man for a few years there, but he's sort of just fallen off of the face of the earth.
A lot of issues with the ankle there.
Yeah.
So
too many slants.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good pick. I was kind of regretting, like, once I got to this pick, how 3 receivers went off the board, because I know that the Saints traded with the Eagles. Didn't they trade up to get this pick?
Yeah, the Eagles had 3 first-round picks at one point.
And so I felt like I was torn between giving the Saints an offensive tackle, but I was wondering, why would they trade up just to get a tackle? They probably want like a playmaker.
Yeah.
So I have them drafting the wide receiver out of Arkansas, Treylon Burks.
Okay.
And I heard a lot of hype. I haven't heard so much about him lately, but I know when the season ended last year for college football, he was like top 3 receivers most talked about. I think maybe because he went to Arkansas was probably why he's not considered as higher as guys like the 2 receivers out of Ohio State, maybe. I don't know. That's just my speculation. I don't watch too much college football as much as I do the NFL, but that was kind of my thought process in making that decision. But yeah, I got him going to the Saints, and then at pick number 17, for the LA Chargers, I have them drafting offensive tackle Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa. And I actually heard a lot of things about this guy a couple of weeks ago, that he's kind of a plays to the end of the whistle and maybe a little bit past. He's a very physical guy up front, and kind of just seems like a mean dude.
Yeah.
In a good way. Like,
I mean, that's what you want on your offensive lineman. You don't want to, like have a tea party with those guys. You want to be like, this guy's making me uncomfortable. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I have the Chargers drafting him. I just think that's a safe pick for them. They really have all their answers on the defensive side of the ball, I think.
They went nuts this off season.
Yeah, so who knows? And yeah, it's going to be fun watching them, and really the whole AFC West. I'm excited to watch them.
I feel like this next year, the Chiefs and Broncos and Raiders might be taking a backseat to the Chargers. I'm thinking they're going to win the AFC West.
Yeah.
Unless something really bad injury-wise happens over training camp. They just look stacked, and they're young, and they're just, when teams get that exciting feel about them, you can kind of see it building for a few years. I kind of get that feeling about the Chargers.
Yeah.
And I'm all for it because the Chargers haven't been good since, I'm talking good, like elite, since like 2006, Phillip Rivers days.
Yeah.
So funny enough, another pick where Jonah and I are in unison here. I have Trevor Penning going to the San Diego Chargers at 17 as well. This is another guy that I'm kind of worried the Seahawks are going to draft at 9. Not because I'm not worried because I think he's bad. I just think he way more makes sense as a right tackle because he's a mauler and a great run blocker, but I think we should try to get the left tackle position figured out, unless they really believe in Stone Forsythe. But For the Chargers, yeah, it shores up that offensive line, helps protect Justin Herbert, and makes them even scarier for the upcoming season. And for the second Eagles first-round draft pick, I have George Karlaftis, edge out of Purdue. We talked about him earlier. Just a solid pass rusher, should bolster that Eagles defense and be another day one starter.
Yeah. So for my 18th pick for the Eagles, I have them taking defensive tackle Jordan Davis out of Georgia. Is he gone off of your draft board?
Yeah, I had him at 14 to the Ravens.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I guess just we flipped those picks too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I have Karlaftis going to the Ravens at 14. But yeah, I don't know. I just noticed the Eagles needed help up front. Jordan Davis was the highest prospect I had left on my board at that position. And yeah, it was a pretty like safe pick, I would say.
Who's that defensive tackle on the Eagles that's really good? Been there forever.
Fletcher Cox.
Yeah, teaming him with Fletcher Cox, that'd be pretty scary.
Is he still on the Eagles? I thought they released him.
They released him and then they re-signed him on a lower contract.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you for forgetting. There was like 20 breaking stories a day for the week where that happened.
Yeah, I remember like they would not shut up about it.
Yeah, like I mean, I forgot Amari Cooper's on the Browns now. Like,
oh yeah, I did forget that too. And then after the Jordan Davis pick to the Eagles at number 19, I have another defensive tackle out of Georgia, Devontae Wyatt, going to the New Orleans Saints. Saints defense, I know they were pretty good last year at stopping the run, but I figure why not bolster up that line, get them even better.
The rich get richer.
Yeah, and so yeah, got him going there, and I don't know. Again, those were kind of two safe picks for me, the 18th and the 19th. Just two really good prospects left on the board. Just have them going there.
Well, I went the complete opposite direction with 19. There's always one pick in the first round where everyone's like, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And I think people have been sleeping on Sam Howell. I think Sam Howell has a really good deep ball. He's like just about the same size that Drew Brees was, maybe a little bigger. But the thing about Sam Howell that intrigues me is he's not fast. But for some reason, he was one of the best rushing quarterbacks in college football last season. Like, he bowls over people. He bounces off of tacklers. He's not that big. It makes no sense, but he just does it. But I see the Saints picking their quarterback of the future here. They let him ride the bench and learn under Jameis Winston for a season. And, yeah, I just think he'd be a good fit in their offense. And the thing about Sam Howell that makes me think maybe later in the draft, if he's still available, the Seahawks might nab him, is he's got a really good deep ball. It's a pretty arcing moon ball. Not necessarily Wilson-esque, but some of the throws I saw him spin out there reminded me of it.
Well, I know this is totally unfair and completely biased by me, but every time I see a quarterback out of North Carolina, I can't help but think of Mitchell Trubisky. And I don't know, all of the things you just said don't remind me of Mitchell Trubisky. So
yeah, Mitchell Trubisky was more of the prototypical like pocket passer, safe pick coming out of college. So at number 20, I have Malik Willis going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Seems like Mike Tomlin has a love affair with this guy, and I could honestly see a situation where the Steelers trade up and get him because it seems like they really like him. Obviously, I'm basing that off of the demeanor I saw of Mike Tomlin while he was talking to Malik Willis at the pro day. Not a whole lot of substantive evidence there, but I just got a feeling it's going to happen. And it's another one of those things where all I can go off of is my own intuition and the rumors I'm hearing. And I'm hearing a lot of Malik Willis to Pittsburgh rumors. And I would actually really like to see it. The illogical part of my brain wants the Seahawks to get Malik Willis because I like him a lot. And I think he's a cool player. But He's very raw, very, very raw. I mean, you think of how hard it is to be an NFL quarterback. This guy only played in, college football for 2 seasons. Um, so he's got a ton to learn, but the physical tools are crazy good. So I would personally really like to see him go to Pittsburgh where he can sit behind Trubisky for a year and learn, maybe 2 years. But I would hate to see him go somewhere where he has to start day one and just for a really bad team and just get eviscerated. So I think this is one of the best landing spots where he could end up.
Yeah, that's funny. This is our third pick where we nailed the same. Is I also have Malik going to the Steelers, and that is kind of like you were saying about how Mike Tomlin was talking with them. I saw a couple clips of that, and I was just like, man, is this like a bromance, a man crush? What's going on here? So, I think Willis going to Pittsburgh would be a good. I mean, I don't know. I just think it makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Him going there, and like you said, he could sit behind Trubisky for a year, maybe 2, and just kind of learn. Because Liberty. I mean, it's not like he's playing prospects, out of the SEC or anything like that. So, Malik Willis to the Steelers, that makes a lot of sense to me. And then at pick number 21, I have the New England Patriots drafting Nakobe Dean out of Georgia. As far as the Patriots' needs, I noticed linebacker was one of their positions, and I know you had the linebacker out of Utah going higher than this guy, but I don't know. I just thought another Georgia player. That's a pretty safe pick. Georgia's defense was insane last year.
Yeah, Nakobe Dean has elite speed. Like, he would immediately be one of the fastest linebackers in the league.
Yeah, so and New England, they're still being ran by the Emperor Palpatine of the league in Bill Belichick. And Belichick, I mean, ever since Brady left, I feel like he's focusing more on getting back to that elite defense that the Patriots had way back in the day when Brady first started as a rookie.
Yeah.
And so I could just, that pick makes sense to me, them nabbing a linebacker at number 21.
Yeah, that makes sense to me too. So at number 21, I have Chris Olave, wide receiver out of Ohio State, going to the Patriots. I know they just drafted N'Keal Harry a couple years ago, but I just feel like they need more weapons for Mac Jones. If there's anything the modern NFL is showing is you can't have too many good wide receivers. I mean, case in point, the Rams. It's just like every year it seems like they have 4 top-tier wide receivers, or at least solid at the worst. So yeah, not too much to say about him. I just think that'd be a rock solid pick, and you might see Mac Jones take a leap in year 2 with a little more dynamic players like that. And then following the receiver trend, I have at number 22 to the Green Bay Packers, Jameson Williams out of Alabama. I just feel like the Packers are going to take whoever the best wide receiver is available at this point. I know Jameson Williams had an ACL injury, but I just think he's called the best deep threat in the class. Pair that with Aaron Rodgers, be a pretty dangerous combo.
Yeah, I guess great minds think alike for the 4th time here, because I, for pretty much the exact same reasons, made the same pick as you. I took Jameson Williams going to Green Bay. And I know he got that ACL injury, but I've also been reading he's way ahead of schedule as far as recovering from that injury. And I mean, seems like a great route runner for Alabama. One of their best players last season.
They've been having some really good receivers come out the last couple of years.
They kind of always have. I mean, Julio Jones went to Alabama.
That's right.
And they've always produced top-notch guys. And I just think, Jameson Williams, he'll be the best receiver available at number 22. All the other prospects will be gone, and
he's a guy that I think if he didn't have the injury would probably go higher than this.
Yeah, too. I agree completely with you. That being said, moving on to pick number 23 for the Arizona Cardinals, I took cornerback Andrew Booth out of Clemson.
Okay, makes sense.
They just, from what I was reading about Arizona, they seem to have a lot of needs at the cornerback position, and on the other side of the ball, at the wide receiver position, they also have a lot of needs there. I mean, obviously they got rid of, or they need someone to fill that second wide receiver to throw to. I know they have DeAndre Hopkins, but yeah, I don't know. I don't see them taking a receiver. I could see them using that pick with a cornerback because they struggled in their secondary last year, and I think Andrew Booth is the one of the better remaining corners out there at that respective pick and position.
Yeah, that certainly makes a whole lot of sense. For the Arizona Cardinals, I have your guy that you took a few picks ago, Devontae Wyatt, going to them. Just a really good run defender, dealing with obviously the 49ers and us in their division. You know, stopping the run is paramount in the NFC West, so that's someone who we'll have to contend with. But I think he shores up their defensive line and just is a contributor. And this next pick, I kind of just literally looked at position because I don't know a whole lot about this guy. But the Cowboys needed a tackle, so I had them picking Bernard Raymond, if that's how you say his name. Sorry if it's not. As I was alluding to, don't know a ton about the guy, but he's a solid prospect, earned the second highest grade of any offensive lineman this season, and only allowed 10 pressures. So that's someone who could, compete for a starting job in Dallas and give Dak a little more time back there.
Yeah, I think that's a solid pick, mainly because that is my pick as well. I think the Cowboys are going to go with an offensive tackle because a couple years ago when Tony Romo was their quarterback, their offensive line was insane.
Yeah, they had a wall.
Remember in the 2014 season how good the Cowboys were? They came into Seattle and just ran all over us because we couldn't stop
DeMarco Murray. And I remember in that game, it was like every time they ran the ball, DeMarco Murray wasn't even getting hit until he was 6 yards past the line of scrimmage. It was crazy.
And that's when we had the Legion of Boom and still a stout defense. And they were like pushing us around.
Yeah. So they were manhandling the likes of Cliff Averill and Michael Bennett and and did we still have B. Bain in 2014? I can't remember.
It was either yes or he was on the Chargers by then. I can't remember either.
Might have,
But I think I could see Jerry Jones. The thing that I've noticed about Jerry Jones in the past with drafts is he gets very I don't know, he gets sold into the hype game by big names like CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons and both great players, but they both are big names coming into the draft. And
well, it's also Dallas. I mean, for whatever reason, they're like the biggest media team. So
I can see him going away from this route, but I don't know. I just think I could see the Cowboys trying to get back to that dominant offensive line, controlling the line of scrimmage on the offensive side of the ball. And they have so many weapons on the offensive side of the ball already that I think them filling those holes at offensive line would really step up their game. And then for pick number 25, I went with, this was kind of this is a major reach here, but I went Buffalo Bills drafting running back Breece Hall out of Iowa State. And I don't know if they'll actually do that. However, I just think, they've had issues at the running back position. I mean, last year I thought they were going to draft Najee Harris, but he obviously went to the Steelers. And I just the Bills' run game has been pretty non-existent. I mean, they've had Devin Singletary, they have Zach Moss, but again, it's been pretty non-existent. Those
Yeah.
guys haven't contributed much. I mean,
Hey, take it from me. You're talking to a guy that has Singletary on his fantasy team, so I know it's not been great.
and yeah, I just think, with Josh Allen being a majority of their run game, you're not gonna want to have him keep getting hit because look at what happened to Cam Newton.
Exactly, and I think he's the best comparison. I think Josh Allen is way more talented of a passer than Cam Newton ever was, but they're both just big, massive, like biggest player with the ball in their hands kind of guys.
Yeah, and so I just think Breece Hall kind of gives Josh Allen that maybe potentially a read option opportunity to play in the. I mean, it really opens up the run game. I think if you have a player like Breece Hall in the backfield for Buffalo.
Yeah, I actually really like that pick because I think Buffalo is already a Super Bowl contender. They got Von Miller. They were arguably like a Super Bowl top tier team last season. You get an exciting player like Breece Hall in the backfield, and running backs, you kind of just draft them and slide them right in, and they're as good as they're gonna be in a lot of cases, except for Rashad Penny. But anyways, I think that would make the Bills really exciting, and yeah, that'd be a good one.
Well, and sorry to cut you off there, but you remember last year, like midway through the season, the Bills started to get exposed a little bit because they couldn't run the ball.
Yeah.
And remember they got beat by the Jaguars. Remember
Yeah,
that? Remember that Josh Allen versus Josh Allen game where
Josh Allen kicked Josh Allen's ass. It was crazy.
Yeah. So I really think the Bills would be smart in, even though that's a reach pick, I think they would be smart in filling that hole.
Yeah. I just realized I didn't pick a running back at all in the first round, so spoiler alert. This is another one of those picks where I was looking at my board and I was just like, oh, this guy hasn't gone yet, so he's gonna go here. I have Jermaine Johnson falling a little bit to the Buffalo Bills and just giving them another weapon on defense. Not too much to think about there. You already mentioned his accolades in college, but yeah, I think he would just make the Bills even more frightening to play.
I'm not going to lie, this is making me a little nervous about my Jermaine Johnson pick to the Seahawks since you have him going all the way down to 25. But, I mean, that's the whole point of the draft is you're guessing and going off of your own weird opinions and biases.
Yeah, I mean, I could have thrown him in at 11 and it would have made just as much sense to me. Yeah. So yeah, honestly, I don't see Jermaine Johnson falling to this far. I just was like, oh shit, I forgot about Jermaine Johnson. Anyways, this is why every NFL team doesn't hire me simultaneously to be their GM. At number 26, I have Zion Johnson, guard at a Boston college, going to the Tennessee Titans. He started his career at Davidson. I don't even know what that is.
That's where Steph Curry went to school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Transferred to Boston College. So he's played a lot of college football and really rose up the board in the last year or so with this senior season he played and only allowed 6 pressures. So Titans get another solid addition to their offensive line. Make a wall for Derrick Henry, and if Ryan Tannehill's still there, him as well.
Nice. For pick number 26, I took the wide receiver out of North Dakota State, Christian Watson. Don't really know too much about him, but I did see his name in a lot of mock drafts in the later picks for the first round.
He's this year's DK, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and I have him going to, of course, the Titans, just because I feel like they need another guy alongside A.J. Brown. They just released Julio Jones this offseason, and they're another team, too, that I think is just a couple players away from maybe getting to the big game.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. I feel like when it comes to the Titans, though, I feel like if they were going to make the Super Bowl, it would have been either 2019, 2020, or this year. I think they've ridden Derrick Henry into the ground. I think he's still going to be good, but he's starting to get injured, and Tannehill seems to be cooling off whatever late career hot streak he was on. So
yeah,
we'll see. The potential is certainly there. You're right. I was a believer in the Titans a year ago, and I'm starting to be more on the sell side of the Titans.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of why I went with the wide receiver pick, just because, maybe ease up on the Derrick Henry workhorse
Yeah.
train and
Makes a whole lot of
kind
sense.
of, spread the ball around other than just pounding the rock 35 times a game. But then after that wide receiver selection at pick number 27, I have guard Kenyon Green going to the Bucks out of Texas A&M. This one was kind of just, honestly, I had to look up the Tampa Bay needs because I thought about what they needed and I was like, well, they have everything they want. They have Tom Brady. They have elite receivers. They have elite running backs. And I don't know. Their defense is already really pretty damn good. So why not try and draft a big, beefy offensive lineman that can help protect your 45-year-old quarterback?
Yeah, and I actually have nothing to add because I had the same player going to number 27 to the Buccaneers, Kenyon Green. Really not much more to say about the guy other than the Bucks are a pretty wealthy team as far as talent is concerned, and this is one of their only holes. So he slides in and gets to play with the GOAT, so to speak. And at number 28, I thought about this for a second, and then when I really realized what the Packers have lost this offseason at the receiver position, I'm like, I wouldn't be so shocked if they did this and took 2 wide receivers in the first round. So I have Treylon Burks out of Arkansas going to Green Bay. I just think, Aaron Rodgers, they just gave him that insane contract, but it's probably the last contract he's ever going to have in the NFL. Just considering his age, I know he's gotten 2 MVPs in a row. He's not slowing down at all. He looks better than ever, but he's taken a lot of hits in his career. He's been injured off and on in his career. I think it's all in now or never mode for the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. And really, when you look at the landscape of the NFC this year, I think their only competition is the Rams and the Bucks. So the NFC is kind of wide open, and I couldn't even tell you how many times in Rodgers' career they're probably just gonna have a cakewalk to the NFC North crown. So I think Treylon Burks can come right in and help them hopefully get past the divisional round this next season.
That's pretty funny that you took a second wide receiver for the Packers because I did the exact same thing. I thought that it wouldn't be too crazy for them to add to Rodgers' lists of needs and wants for playing for them.
Yeah.
And although I don't have Treylon Burks because I had him off the draft board relatively early, I have Jahan Dotson out of Penn State going at pick number 28. And not really a lot of reasoning went into this other than he seemed like one of the best wide receivers left. Pro Football Focus has him at size concerns, only 5'11", 184, but he only dropped 2 of his 93 catchable targets last season. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And you have Aaron Rodgers throwing to you. He's going to get the ball to where only you can catch it. And if he can catch everything, I think that's a pretty good formula for Green Bay to go ahead and draft this kid.
Yeah.
And then following pick number 28 for the Chiefs, I have them drafting edge rusher David Ojabo out of Michigan. And again, this was just another kind of a safe pick. The Chiefs' defense, their offense is clearly the better of the two. And they needed some help up front, and I just thought, guy out of Michigan seemed like one of the better edge rushers left. I feel like most of my draft board picks are either wide receivers or edge rushers.
I know. That's just kind of the nature of this draft, though.
Yeah.
So funny enough, I had Ojabo falling to the Seahawks at 40 because
nice.
he injured his Achilles at his pro day, so he might not be ready for the start of the season, and that'll hurt his draft stock. But that's just me kind of daydreaming. He'll probably still get picked in the first round. For the Kansas City Chiefs, I, like you, went defense, but I went with Andrew Booth Jr. because he was still available on my board. I'm not sure how big of a need cornerback is for the Chiefs, but, watching the way Josh Allen absolutely torched them, even though they won the game, they could get better. So Booth is said to have some of the best feet in the class, and just at this point in the draft would be the best corner available. So I have him going there. And for the second Chiefs pick at number 30, I have their Tyreek Hill replacement in Sky Moore going at number 30.
Yeah, I've seen that name throughout the prospect board, but didn't pull the trigger on him going in the first round.
I just saw that he has elite shiftiness, and for me, he's kind of their Tyreek Hill replacement, potentially.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I was listening to some videos yesterday about potential sleeper picks that could be Pro Bowlers, and he was on there. And just looking at his highlights, he looks just like super shifty, really hard to bring down with his quickness and lateral ability. So, yeah, I think he could come in and help fill the void that was left by Tyreek Hill's departure and cost a fraction of the bill.
Yeah, no, that certainly makes sense. That makes kind of more sense than my pick here with the Kansas City Chiefs. I went with a corner. I wasn't really sure how dire their corner needs were either. I think I looked up what their needs were. I took Kaiir Elam out of Florida. And he just seemed like one of the better cornerbacks left on the draft board. So I just went with him going to KC, and kind of like you said about Josh Allen torching them and really just them not getting back to the Super Bowl. It was a variety of things, but their defense certainly could have played better than they did against the Bengals and against the Bills, even though they won that game.
Absolutely.
And I mean, they changed the overtime rules this offseason because everyone was complaining about had Josh Allen gotten the ball that he would have marched them down the field and scored. So really they got unlucky in the Bills and not being able to have the ball that one final drive.
What was funny about that to me is the next week, the Bengals and Chiefs went into overtime, and Mahomes threw a pick right after they got the coin toss. So, I mean, I don't hate the rule change. I think it's fine, especially because it's just for the playoffs. But it's just kind of funny how reactionary people can be to things.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent about the rule change. I do think that a coin flip should not have that big of a say in the outcome of the game.
Yeah.
But like you were saying about Mahomes throwing a pick against the Bengals, which was an awesome moment, by the way. But because I was rooting for the Bengals. I was a Bengal bandwagoner last year, I'll admit that.
Oh, me too.
But
still am.
Had half their offensive roster on my two fantasy teams. Pick number 31. For the Bengals, I have them drafting a guy you took a little earlier than I did, Tyler Linderbaum.
Oh, okay.
I have him going to Cincy.
They could certainly use the O-line help.
Yeah, and that was just my main reason is you could put up the argument that the Bengals lost the Super Bowl to the Rams due to their offensive line struggles. I mean, I am sure you've seen that photo of Jamar Chase torching Jalen Ramsey yet again. But Burrow just couldn't get him the ball in that final play because Aaron Donald was already in his face.
Yeah.
Wrestling
the
him to the
Bengals
ground.
left guard did about as good a job blocking Aaron Donald as I would have on that play.
Yeah, so I mean, you pretty much hit it on the nose earlier about Tyler Linderbaum and how good he potentially may be. So I just kind of rolled with that. He was the highest prospect left at that position. Really, that's the first center that I took in the first round. But yeah, I have him going to Cincy to help protect Joey B.
So kind of similar situation. I had another guy you had earlier, quite a bit earlier in the draft, going to Cincy, and Nakobe Dean, linebacker out of Georgia. I'm not too aware of the Bengals necessarily needing linebacker help, but if they're not exploring a trade option here, he's got to be the best player available and a great value at that pick. So I think for them, it's just a no-brainer. We were just in a Super Bowl. I mean, don't reach for a offensive tackle when you can just take a impact player all the way at number 31. And then to round out the draft, I have Desmond Ritter, quarterback out of Cincinnati, going to Detroit. And it's funny enough, I feel like Malik Willis was setting the world on fire in early March, but the last week or so, I've been hearing a bunch of rumors that Desmond Ritter might get drafted a lot higher than some people are thinking. And I've watched some film on him, and I can see why people like him so much. He is actually really fast. He ran a 4.5 flat at the combine. And apparently people say he's just very knowledgeable, got better every year in college. But my issue with Desmond Ritter is his accuracy is sometimes holy shit bad. And maybe he can work on his mechanics a bit in the NFL with some top tier level coaching, but something about the way he throws the ball just kind of bothers me. And when my armchair quarterback evaluation is the way the ball comes out of their hand and how fast the release is, that really entices me.
Mm-hmm.
I've fallen for some guys that ended up sucking really bad in the NFL because of that. But in general, I mean, look at the way Aaron Rodgers throws the ball. It's like a whip, less than a quarter of a second, it's out of his hand.
Believe it or not, Tony Romo had a really fast delivery. That was why he was one of the reasons why I really liked watching Romo growing up. Got a lot of flack for it, but
he had a beautiful throwing motion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Detroit gets their quarterback. Desmond can work on his accuracy for a year. And honestly, I think the Lions could be an up-and-coming team if they stick with Dan Campbell. They're not close. They have a year or two more to build. But they play hard for their coach. And that's the biggest sign of a team that could be something. So I think they get Ritter, let him sit for a year, and then maybe in 2023, 2024, watch out for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good pick because I was flaunting with the idea of maybe the Lions taking Kenny Pickett at 32, but I shied away from the quarterback just because, I don't know, something about watching Dan Campbell and Jared Goff and, when they won their first game, it was he went up and hugged Dan Campbell immediately, and the two of them seem to have some good chemistry together. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I shied away from taking a quarterback for Detroit, but I took linebacker Devin Lloyd out of Utah.
Okay.
For the Lions, just because he again was probably the best player left at that specific position, and it seems like the Lions, I don't really know a whole lot about their needs because they seem to have a lot of them, but linebacker, I feel like I read was one of their main positions they needed filled. And so I think Devin Lloyd is probably the most suitable candidate to fill that position.
That'd be really good value at number 32 as well. I mean, I've seen a lot of people drafting him in the teens, so that'd be a good pick. And with that is a wrap. So this is being recorded on April 18th, 2022. So by the time we get this out, there may be some other crazy trade. I mean, maybe Baker Mayfield's on another team, which would change things. But for now, this is as JR Takes sees it. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening. Hopefully you guys were able to relate a little bit with our picks. Hopefully I didn't whiff on the Seahawks pick completely. Hopefully Ryan didn't whiff on the Seahawks. I mean, you took the pick that I wanted the most, but
it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, but again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.